Solutions come from sources,
Can we have the video?
but that doesn't make them a hit. Takes more to improve the old and the new. Experience, expertise, and collaboration. Because the thinkers of today define the possibilities of tomorrow. Because solutions come out of collaboration.
Okay, we are waiting for the video to come.
Because it all starts from a conversation. Let's join hands and solve smartly.
Students. So, yep. Please bring it up. Okay, yes. Good job. Mm-hmm. Get to see the video. Arjun, are you playing the video? Okay. Okay, there's some glitch with the video, but let me start this. Good afternoon to all of you and welcome to Bosch Conversation. My name is Amit Shrivastava and I'm based out of Detroit. I'm your host for today. It is pleasure to have you all to discuss this very important topic around supply chain management, which actually has become very important post COVID. Well, Bosch Conversation is our exclusive invite only series for the best of industry leaders to collaborate and co-innovate on arriving at technology-led business solutions to reimagine how we do business for today and tomorrow. Well, this session is being recorded, but for your benefit, you're going to receive an email at the end of the session where you will have link to the recording. So you can always go back and refer the questions that you asked and the responses that the panelists provided. Very important point. We want to make sure that the audience get best of their time investment, and hence please type in your questions. You will see a text box on your right side. Please put in your questions even during the session, and I will take all of these questions towards the end with the panelists. We also have got few polls between every session to understand each of your thought process. So these polls are going to be for 1 minute, and it will pop up in on your screen. So please do answer it, and you will also be able to see the result, right? Well, let's come back to the most important topic. Why are we here? Well, Bosch Conversation centers around one of the most important supply chain transformation investment that is being considered around the world, right? And we want to understand while we made this technology investment, how it is going to impact and help us build next generation automated warehouses. So, well, why did we choose this topic? Well, this topic was chosen to address the significant challenges that warehouses currently encounter, including operational inefficiencies, safety and productivity concerns, and inventory management. And throughout this Bosch conversation, we will understand what are the key challenges that warehouses face and what are the advanced solutions that can be leveraged to provide an impactful solution, right? Well, today I have got four of my esteemed guests coming from global corporations. I have got um, Dalia, she is joining from STL Partners. I've got Mridanli joining from Verizon, and I've got Chandan and Rudy joining from Bosch. Well, without any delay, let me introduce my first guest speaker, Dalia Adib. Dalia is a consulting director and CCO from STL Partners. She has been closely involved with diverse businesses, helping them devise growth strategies across 5G, data centers, cloud, and connectivity. Her other areas of interest include domains such as IoT and vertical industries such as manufacturing and logistics. Today, she will be providing STL's vision on the present and future of smart warehouses. Daria, over to you. Our audience are very keen to hear your thoughts on this very important topic.
Thank you, Amma, and thanks for that lovely introduction. So yeah, I'll be first presenting a bit of context for the rest of the webinar today on our view of where things are at when it comes to smarter warehouses. So if we go to the next slide. Great. First thing to say is where the logistics industry is at. And clearly there are some challenges. Some of them are new and have become more significant, and some new challenges as well. These are 6 of the key challenges that we're seeing in the industry. Some of them that I'd like to point out. One is, efficiency. There's an ever evolving need to become more and more efficient, which puts huge pressure on a low margin industry like logistics. And what we're seeing is that the difference of winning and losing contracts is coming down increasingly to the speed of delivery and the cost that you can provide. The other thing that we're finding quite interesting is the rise of fourth-party logistics players. So not just third-party logistics companies who provide a service for one part of the logistics process, but actually new businesses who are seeking to optimize the full supply chain end to end. And that just highlights how much of a demand there is for becoming efficient, and to do that, to leverage economies of scale like these fourth-party logistics players have. The other couple I want to look at are those that have become more apparent sort of post-pandemic in the last 5 years or so. One is agility and reliability. I mean, clearly in retail especially, it's a highly cyclical industry with these business seasonality. So there's always been a need to scale up and down warehouse operations, and that is challenging as a business when you have fixed costs. The other thing is the change in the customer demands post-pandemic. And clearly, now we all expect goods to be delivered within 24 hours a lot of the time. But not only that, but there's now an expectation that you make changes to that order up to 24 hours before planned delivery, again, putting huge pressure on the logistics sector. The other thing, there's huge demand for warehousing, and what we're seeing now, even in the US, where there's been large warehouses in big areas of space, increasingly those warehouses are going into metropolitan areas, which have short, a small amount of real estate, and that again is putting in pressure on how you manage your inventory and also minimize excess inventory as much as possible. So if you go to the next slide, these challenges do lend themselves to solutions and often driven by technology. And clearly there is a need to transform. But the reality is that warehouses are at very different stages of transformation. Many companies are still in what we call phase 1, which is really around foundational digitization and connectivity. So simply trying to connect people within the warehouse to enterprise systems and starting to build some awareness through data of what the operation looks like. As you move to phase 2, optimization, that's where the business is starting to extract useful insights from the data collected. Phase 3, it's moving to automation and trying to do that at scale, starting to build in AI. And then the final phase that we're starting to see is actually using data and connectivity to drive new business models, particularly around servitization. So offering as a service models, which allow flexibility both for the provider, the logistics player, but also for the end customer as well. Next slide, please. All of these, clearly need connectivity. And sometimes what we hear from logistics companies, the challenge around managing lots of different networks within a brownfield environment can be very difficult. And on the bottom there, you can see some of the options available. So clearly companies are using wireless technologies, Wi-Fi or cellular. And I'll touch on what we mean by private LTE and private 5G in a moment, which will be a big topic today, but also fixed networks as well. The key question is what are the requirements that really matter today? And so there's different benefits that these technologies bring, some more, some less. But what we're hearing when it comes to logistics players is that you really want reliable connectivity. That's that's an imperative now, because downtime is so harmful to your business. Just talks about efficiency and needing to deliver things on time and at cost. Coverage is still a huge challenge. Even as companies move to those phases 2 and 3, automation, starting to use AI, there are still black spots in indoor facilities, and also being able to cover the site outdoor as well, and have visibility throughout the logistics process. And then the third one, which is interesting, is the increasing demand for mobility. And so connecting devices and machines that can move around. So there's increasing adoption around asset tracking, for example, or automated mobile robots as well, which we'll hear lots of examples of today too. Next slide, please. So I touched on this idea of a private cellular network, and some of our audience may not be aware of this. How we at STL define this is that it is a logically discrete cellular network with dedicated network elements which give rise to unique features that can be customized to meet specific business requirements. And if you click on what this really means is essentially having your own mobile network that you as an enterprise can control, and so it doesn't have some of the challenges around interference and performance loss that you might experience when you use a public network. Next slide, please. So this, I mean, that brings a lot of benefits, because if you have, kind of an isolated network, cellular network, you can meet those performance requirements around reliability, mobility, security, etc. And what we're seeing is that even warehouses across the spectrum of different stages of digitization are starting to adopt these. So even those phase one warehouses are adopting private 5G or private LTE networks for things like enabling indoor and outdoor reliable wireless communications, or push-to-talk communications to allow workers to talk to one another as legacy networks start to get decommissioned and reach end of life. What's more interesting is actually how this technology can really enable some of the newer use cases. So seeing a lot of adoption around video analytics or computer vision, for example, to monitor worker safety, or digital twins to provide that end-to-end visibility of what's happening throughout the shop floor, throughout the operations, to optimize this more effectively and in a more automated way in the future. If you go to the next slide. So finally, I wanted to touch on a real-world example of private mobile networks in action in the logistics sector. And here we've got a company called Ocado, which is a British online grocery retailer, which now has been so successful in optimizing its operations and building technology to improve how it operates the warehouse, that it's now got a technology side of the business and is actually licensing that technology to other retailers in the UK, but also globally. What they did is it was essentially about moving from a standard conveyor belt system to fulfill orders to a more automated system using robots, like you can see in the diagram here. And those robots were connected by a private cellular network. So if you just click on, you can see some of the benefits that brought. So rather than having that kind of fixed system, the standard conveyor belt system, each bot can now pick over 50 items in under every 5 minutes, and that's a big difference from when it took 1 hour. It also has reduced the time to fulfill an order from 2 hours to 15 minutes. And there's been additional benefits that tie into some of those challenges I talked about. So cutting food waste, clearly that meets sustainability goals, and also reducing supply chain costs. This is just one example, and we're going to hear lots more in the rest of the webinar. And on that note, I think it's back to you, Amit.
Very interesting. In fact, I mean, really insights on how 5G actually has provided business benefits. I mean, the example that you gave about UK groceries and how the food wastage has reduced, helping them meet the sustainability goals, and then kind of reducing the picking time from like what 15 minutes, 2 hours to 15 minutes, right? I have one question which I'm going to ask you, and I'm getting this from my audience. You have mentioned multiple technologies, right? 5G, then you have got Wi-Fi and LTE and all that thing. I'm going to get to you, but this is just early warning. Yeah, I want to let my panelists know that what is coming from the audience. Good. Thank you very much. And with this, we come to the first poll. My director, can you have the first poll on the screen? Would like to hear what my audience are thinking about it. Yes. So you got 1 minute to answer this question. Where are you in your warehouse transformation journey? You have got 5 options. Yes, digitization and connectivity phase, or you are in optimization phase, or you are in autonomous operation phase, or servitization phase where you are using as a service model. 25 more seconds to go. Good. Audience, please keep voting. We really would want to hear your perspective. And that is actually going to kind of make sure that I ask the right questions from the panelist. Very good. The percentage voting is increasing. I'm liking it. Okay. So I see that many, 60% of the audience say that they are already in the digitization and connectivity phase, which is very good. But yes, very few, I mean, almost none on the autonomous operation phase or servitization phase. But good, I mean, at least there's a good progress in their business on digitization and connectivity phase. Good. With this, I move to my second speaker for the day. Let me welcome Chandan Trehan from Bosch Software and Digital Solution. Chandan leads the digital supply chain and sustainability services in North America, and he's based out of Detroit. He's responsible for building sustainable, resilient, and efficient supply chain solutions, harnessing the power of digital. Chandan also has a keen interest in exploring the role of technology in addressing practical logistics and supply chain problems. Chandan will provide us insights on how Bosch is using this warehouse of the future and what kind of technologies they are deploying and what kind of benefits they are seeing. Well, Chandan, I think over to you. Would love to hear from you on the practical examples that Bosch is deploying.
Thank you, Amit. Maybe I'll start very quickly by talking a little bit about the organization I come from. I'm a part of the organization called Bosch Software and Digital Solutions. We are a digital first company aimed at accelerating the digital journey for our customers. We work across domains like healthcare, food, automotive, manufacturing, high tech, retail, and utilities. We essentially look at the entire digital acceleration program for our customers from three different lenses: connected enterprise, helping our customers build the businesses of the future; connected industries, the I4.0 capabilities of ours, helping our customers manufacture in a more digital led fashion; and finally, creating a better customer experience for the end products that are being designed by our customers through our connected products platform. Next slide, please. This is our vision about the warehousing of the future. You see a bunch of solutions that we have mentioned here, and by no means we mean that all these solutions have to be implemented on day one for you to really realize this transformation program. Transformation programs take time, but every time you look at a transformation program, you should be looking at building in more data transparency in your overall systems. So it starts from the point where you start receiving these products in your warehouse from your logistics service provider, including in transit condition monitoring for these products. If it's a cold chain or a very specialized warehouse that has been set up, which requires environmental conditions to be monitored at regular intervals, it also makes sense for you to start monitoring it from the point where your logistics service providers are actually moving that product and finally bringing it to you. We also look at automated storage retrieval systems, which can help you reduce the amount of time, energy that is spent in the warehouse in the put away and the picking up process. We look at bringing in more real-time asset tracking mechanisms, which give you a very clear understanding of what's the inventory levels, where is your inventory currently located in the warehousing space as well. Warehouses, b- purely because of the size that they operate on, it's important for you to understand sometimes the real-time location of the warehouses as well, of the products as well. It also means that you need to bring in different warehouse MHE assets, material handling assets, to be brought onto a single platform, because your warehouse operations are just as efficient, as optimal as all your material handling devices are working on. We also use computer vision technology in this to essentially reduce the time that is spent, especially around quality inspection processes for some value-added services that may be being performed in your warehouse. AR/VR solutions, jet loop optimization and stuff. But one thing that I want to very essentially focus on here is the logistics control tower that you see at the extreme left hand side. This is one solution that helps you create a single glass pane view for your entire warehousing operations. It helps you understand and track different KPIs, helps you compare different warehouses of yours on those KPIs, and cross pollinate best practices among these warehouses for the growth. Next slide, please. Our focus today, of course, there are a bunch of use cases solutions that I've spoken about, but our focus today is going to be essentially around these three use cases. One, of course, is the digital control tower, the single glass pane view that we talk about. Second is improved material handling and asset movement in your warehousing using AGVs, AMRs. And finally, around computer vision solutions that can help you optimize the warehousing operations, reduce the amount of time and energy that is spent on certain specialized value added services like quality monitoring, packaging, and stuff that happen at a warehouse. So, our focus today is going to be on these three topics. Thank you. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thanks all. So, Chandan, thank you very much for the insightful insights that you brought in on the table. Very happy to hear that a lot of these advanced technologies have already been deployed, and we are already seeing benefits of these advanced technologies like AR, VR, and control tower is something that I'm going to talk about it. I know this is your focus area, and it's something that you are very passionate about it. So I'm going to pick this up, and I'm seeing this. Some of the questions are also from the audience coming around that. Okay, good. With this, we come to our second poll. Uh, my director, yes, good. Okay, so this is around which of these initiatives are you already considering for your organization? You have got five options: warehouse digital control tower, smart intra logistics solution, computer vision solution, or anything other, or none of these. Wow. Okay. Audience, please keep voting. We really would want to understand where are you on your warehouse transformation journey, and what kind of challenges you're facing. Good. I've got, yeah, 20 more seconds left. 15 more seconds. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. So this is interesting. I mean, there are 50% of the audience says they have implemented computer vision solution, which I would believe that, because I've seen in multiple industries. While 50% of them are saying others, I would love to hear what are those others. So please do write down in your chat box what are those other solutions that you are implementing in your warehouse. Good. With this, let me introduce to my third speaker of the day, Mrinalini Lakshminarayanan from Verizon Business. Mrinalini heads the energy V2X and aviation segments to drive market leadership for the Verizon network and services. She is an expert in next generation edge compute and connectivity solutions for robotics, drones, computer vision, IoT, device and digital twins, industrial systems, connected cars, electrical grids, electric vehicle charging. Oh wow, Manali, you have really have a breadth of knowledge, and I'm really happy. I'm sure my audience are going to be benefited from your thoughts. Well, over to you, and Manali, you are going to talk about how do we enable digital warehouse operations using new technologies. Over to you, Manali.
Thank you, Amit. And Dalia and Chandan had given a great insight into various use cases and how the markets are evolving here. One thing that I want to bring out is a warehouse is just not a four walls operations. There is also the yard, and there's also outdoor environments that warehouses are in, right? So I want to start off with an example here of the value that Verizon has brought in for one such customer. And let's start the video here. And
The Port of Southampton, 40 billion pounds of UK ports, nearly 600,000 and over 1.1 million cruise passengers a year. It's port. It's an international gateway. As a global leader facing increasing pressure to deliver faster and more efficiently than ever, Associated British Ports needed to transform their business to stay ahead. So they reached out to Verizon to harness the power of a private 5G network, giving them control, security, and the ability to adapt to change in near real time. We call this enterprise intelligence.
The Verizon team were instrumental in only allowing us to conceptualize the idea of our private 5G network, but also in the planning, the solution design, and the application from contract signature to production use in under 6 months was a real feat of engineering.
Now the Port of Southampton is getting smarter and more agile by the day.
With our private 5G network, we can keep our employees connected across our ports.
To have ultra-fast communications across our terminals.
We're no longer limited by Wi-Fi signals.
Verizon Private 5G network is the foundation for us to build on.
And this is why being the first port to offer 5G to our customers was a strategic and great milestone for ABP.
This is what the future looks like at Britain's first 5G port, powered by a Verizon private 5G network.
We can keep our drone flights automated and running, and we can collect millions of data points to start utilizing computer vision, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality, develop real simulations of port operations, ensuring that we can have the right people in the right place to support our customers, but it also gives our customers visibility of where their products are.
With Verizon 5G, the Port of Southampton is more than a global economic hub. It's an international leader in innovation.
The private 5G network has the ability to be creative with technology and to really test our ability to bring new ideas and innovation through our ports.
And Verizon's private 5G network can enable us to become a port of the future.
With Verizon, Associated British Ports gets more than a private network. They get enterprise intelligence from the network businesses rely on.
As you see, a lot of these technologies that we need to use in indoor warehouse environments are also being used in the outdoor environments that you see here. So, therefore, the terminology warehouse is a terminology that is used, and it can be used in the retail environment in the back office. It can be used in the manufacturing environment where they are looking at production inventory they're bringing into the manufacturing environment and taking it out as it's getting shipped. It is used in the distribution environment where inventory is coming in, depalletization is happening, and then as it's getting picked, packed, and shipped to end consumers within minutes or hours. And therefore, there is a huge view on how we would consider the different types of networks to ensure it can blend and bring the value to these customers. Dalia talked about automation. Automation is very key, especially in the labor market that we had in the US. There is a huge need to automate and significantly increase the speed and reduce the cost of operation. So automation to scale actually is driving how 5G is getting adopted in this environment. So there are so many different use cases that Chandan brought out, which basically talked about digital first, IoT, automation using robotics, asset tracking, inventory management, computer vision. All of these, and AR/VR technologies, all of these have various different connectivity needs. And if you look at the different kind of networks that are out there, the 5G network is the one that actually enables you to allow different types of connectivity, different kinds of use cases, different priorities that you need to offer to ensure that the IT can offer the kind of services to the OT team so that the OT operations are not interrupted. So Verizon is in the space of providing this kind of value into these kind of versatile warehouse, indoor, outdoor, yard, ports kind of environments. Let's go to the next slide. This is one of the reasons why Verizon and Bosch have partnered together. And as we are progressing in this partnership, we want to ensure we understand warehouse operation is global. We do understand there are multiple warehouses. There's a need for transition between different warehouses that are there. And also, we need to ensure that they are able to adopt from pilot and scale to production and ensure that they are bringing in the value that they need to bring in to improve the efficiency in their operation. So with the experience of Bosch and the experience of Verizon in 5G environments, we are able to combine and bring this value to our customers to support their warehouse transformation.
Good. Thanks, Mrinali, for a wonderful perspective. I mean, I really like the case study of Associated British Ports, and how Verizon is looking at the warehouses. A warehouse not bounded by four walls, but wherever there are products and it has to be picked up, right? So very interesting story. And now you also bought how IT and OT integration is being kind of enabled using the 5G technologies. My audience are definitely going to ask you, okay, the ROI and all that thing. So this question is going to come. Be ready. Okay, with this, I move to the last poll. Yes. So according to you, which is the most promising reason to switch to a private 5G network? Your options, you have got four options: device mobility, coverage due to lower latency, incremental security over Wi-Fi, reliability due to dedicated carrier grade network, and I don't think 5G is beneficial. Okay, good. Audience, please keep voting. This is looks like going to be a tough fight. Yeah. Oh no no. Okay. Got 14 more seconds. Please keep voting. Yeah, I think this is the best one I saw among all the four questions that we asked to our audience. Wonderful. Okay, with this. So interesting. 67% of the folks believe that reliability due to dedicated carrier grade network. So 5G is much more reliable and it's a carrier grade network. And 50% of them believe like, oh, due to lower latency, which actually is a problem when you have got multiple devices getting connected to the network. So very good. Thank you very much, audience, for your views on the 5G. With this, I move to the most anticipated session for the day, the panel discussion. I will have three of my panelists along with Rudy. So I will have Mrinalini from Verizon, I will have Chandan from Bosch, I will have Dalia from Steel Partners, and I will also be joined by Rudy from Bosch. So let me just give you some introduction about Rudy. Rudy has a decade of experience at Bosch. He has held multiple leadership roles in logistics and possesses expertise in logistics engineering, material flow, packaging, and the implementation of new technologies to optimize material flow. So I'm sure we are going to hear very real life examples and when he has implemented these newer technologies in Bosch warehouses. Good. Um, so yes, I have got, dear panelists, I've got the questions from coming from the audience. So I'll kind of keep putting those questions to all of you, right? And you can pick up, I mean, whichever you feel is good, where you can really add value. Well, audience, please keep pouring your questions so that I will pick up as and when it comes. Ludi, let me ask you the first question. You have been in the manufacturing and logistics space for more than a decade. You have implemented certain technology solutions in Bosch plants. What are some of the critical connectivity challenges that you have witnessed and that you believe that industry is also grappling with?
Yeah, I'm happy to share some thoughts from an operational view. And just to start, I think the challenges today simply result from the fact that connectivity is really becoming, let's say, the material flow backbone and is a main prerequisite of being able to be competitive and operate efficiently, basically make or break criteria. And with that foundation, it has to be robust. It has to offer minimal latencies. And also redundancies are important to ensure system uptime. As Dalia shared earlier, today we're facing many challenges. And from an operational point of view, it is a big competitive advantage if connectivity is not one of them. And it can certainly be a challenge for the entire spectrum of connectivity applications. And I believe that already becomes evident when we're looking at some very simple forms. Let's say an operator on the shop floor uses a smart device to book a goods receipt in an ERP system. Given a robust connectivity, this can be done in minimal time, cost efficient. However, in case of any connectivity deviation, the transaction and the correct inventory levels are at stake, leading then to costs down the road when having to correct the error. Worth noticing, I believe, also that today's redundancies are often still manual, meaning upon detection of an issue, it is really up to a human to act, which introduces additional risks. And within our four walls, a warehouse, the importance, I believe, has been understood, and connectivity needs are, I believe, somewhat clear. But as soon as you look outside of a warehouse, a building, connectivity again becomes more challenging. And as a result, when moving material between geographical delivery points with the same expectation to connectivity is really crucial. And lastly, maybe just coming back again to the automated material flow on an operational level on the shop floor. This is less often a, let's say, radical one-time transformation, but more so a, let's say, multitude of incremental steps leading you towards a true north future state with humans and robots working alongside, I believe, for the foreseeable future. And in light of this human and robot interaction on the shop floor, connectivity does become safety critical. Just picture an automated mobile robot AMR for material movements, observing its warehouse environment live. I believe the topic of latency, as mentioned earlier, really becomes critical and gains a much higher relevance when forklift drivers and AMRs share drive paths, doesn't it?
Yeah. Rudy, I mean, very interesting insights. I mean, you touched upon the latency and redundancy issue. But more importantly, when the warehouses are getting automated and where you have these robots working together with you, I can't imagine that I'm telling something to do robot to the robot and he comes back to me after 2 seconds or 3 seconds, or my god, this can be very scary. So really you need a 100%, you want a technology which is 100% reliable. And I think it came up in the poll also that 5G actually is kind of being positioned as a very reliable carrier graded network. So very good insights, thank you very much. Well, let me broaden this whole thing, right? While you touched from Bosch standpoint, let me go back to Dalia and say, hey Dalia, like what are the typical challenges the industry is facing and how they are resolving all this?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the same thing. That there's these themes that keep coming up, right, around connectivity, like we saw from the poll, needing to connect more and not just focus on specific devices or machines, but span across, with the warehouse and outside, and also making that reliable. So I think that's really interesting. And to be honest, that's what we're seeing in other industries as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about manufacturing as a kind of similar sector. And I think there's a lot that can be learned, to be honest, from other industries, because having looked at, say, the role of connectivity across these different industries, similar challenges come up. And manufacturing is a really interesting one because we've been tracking private mobile network deployments globally. and it seems to be a leading industry. I think it's 21% of our track deployments are in the manufacturing sector, so they're kind of slightly ahead. But at the same time, there's a lot of similarities, the nature of the sites and some of those operational challenges I talked about in my presentation, as there are in warehousing as well. And in a similar thing, there's a drive towards automation and needing to be more efficient as well. So I think there's a stat that says at least 64% of manufacturing activities are automatable. But clearly, like at an early stage, like we saw with the poll, I think with the warehouse sector. The other thing that we're finding interesting with manufacturing when it comes to the 5G or the private mobile networks topic is, although many industries have been deploying private 4G, we're seeing more deployments increasingly of private 5G, particularly in manufacturing. And that's because there's starting to be a move towards those kind of next gen use cases and actually needing those low latency requirements, like we just talked about, humans and robots working together. And even in that Ocado case I touched on, there's very little humans in the hive, as they call it, but at the same time you have robots operating autonomously, and they need to talk to one another, and that has a very stringent low latency requirement. I think connectivity challenges wise, honestly, like in manufacturing, very similar to what Rudy said, challenge of indoor and outdoor environments and needing that kind of full supply chain view. But even indoors, there are challenges, when you have, say, metal structures or obstructive factors which inhibit the ability to connect a shop floor easily. But I think, but again, there's some really interesting examples. So another one I wanted to touch on is actually with a sugar manufacturer in Europe, and just to give you a bit of a flavor of how they're using private mobile networks, they've actually implemented it for 4 sites. So whereas I think Melanie said in her presentation, there's always a kind of, it takes time to go from pilot proof of concept to kind of scaling that to a production environment. They've bought into the idea of a private mobile network and deployed it in 4 sites. They are greenfield sites, which is obviously always easier to do than a brownfield environment, but they've identified 15 use cases, and 2 of the key use cases they're using it for there. One is unified communication. So, just the general need to connect workers across different sites to systems and machines, but also predictive maintenance. And I think that's really interesting because we've heard about predictive maintenance for decades across these industries and needing to use things like analytics and AI to predict when a machine will fall and then reduce downtime. But the challenge has always been that there's not enough data that's able to be collected, and that has to be customized to the type of machine and the environment that it's in. But now with technologies like 5G, you are able to overcome that data collection challenge. And, again, there's benefits, kind of operational benefits. What they're finding with this sugar manufacturer is that reduces time to commission the new plant significantly by using private 5G, because you need less access points. You don't need to do the same level of planning and design when it comes to fixed networks. You can test the operations very quickly and also start to run those day-to-day diagnostics using data. So yeah, some really interesting, I think, things we're seeing in other sectors like manufacturing, which apply in a similar way to warehousing as well.
Got it. I think you covered a breadth of examples across the industry. I think the case for a carrier grade network is really made actually, and it's just not about robots. I think I see that there's a cross section of use cases that can be enabled using 5G. Well, let me I had one question, but I have Mrinali, you are consulting many customers from Verizon, right, on 5G, right? I'm sure customers are asking, okay, what's the benefit and all that, right? Before I go to you, I have got one question from my audience, and I'll just read out. Would 5G work as an acceptable stand-in for private 5G deployment? 5G FWA may work as an acceptable stand-in for private 5G deployment. I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly from the audience. So whoever it is, maybe if you can provide more details, or Mrinali,
Yeah,
can you?
I think we're talking about fixed wireless access technology, 5G technology. Obviously, as customers are going through the transition, They might be leveraging the public network, and they are building out from the public network when they have limited number of use cases. And as they move more and more to a larger number of use cases and larger number of technologies and capability that they want to bring in, they start they start looking at other factors like latency that they talked about. They also talked about the reliability that is required. So as you move more and more into capacity increase and different use cases that they are actually looking at, the transition will happen from the public 5G network adoption to FWA to private 5G adoption. That's a good way to do the
Okay.
transition as we're going through this.
Okay. Good. Okay. So I have a question, but I'll let you first go back to Chandan. Chandan, how is Bosch SDS helping customers solve some of these challenges that are associated with this whole technology?
Thanks, Amit. I think one thing that we do a little differently when it comes to helping our customers in their transformation journey is to start with the question why. Because that's a very critical aspect to understand. What do you expect from a transformation program like this? And that kind of helps you divide the entire transformation journey into smaller legs, which can help you achieve most out of your transformation program. And at the same time also identify what are those quick wins that you could be looking at in the transformation program as we embark on this journey. Another critical aspect of helping our customers in this journey is where we bring in some assets, accelerators, which can help reduce the time to value realization for our customers. So that's another critical way we are helping our customers in achieving most out of their transformation, out of their transformation journey. We follow what we call as a practitioner's approach. You've heard all these success stories that where we have leveraged these technologies, these use cases have been implemented in the Bosch world itself. Computer vision is something that we are experimenting very closely at multiple plants of ours. We are using AGVs, AMRs constantly in our plants. And I think one question that also did come up was, how soon are we going to see 5G becoming the most standard form of connectivity in warehousing operations? I think it's going to happen very soon. And the reason being, just compare how many devices were connected just 5 years ago in a warehouse versus the number of devices, connected devices that we have in the warehouse today. You've got AGVs, AMRs, cobots, you've got computer vision based quality monitoring systems, all these things that have come in just 5 years of time frame. And it's going to get only more complex as we go in. Warehousing operations are becoming more complex. The size of the warehouse is becoming more and more smaller. It's more and more, value added services are expected from the warehouses as we move across. So Bosch as a partner comes in to help you embark this complexity of transformation at with the lowest time to value realization. Thanks, Amit.
Thanks, Chandan. Look, I would also want to take this occasion to ask my questions. I'm not so much educated on this topic. Mrinali, when you already have got 4G, Wi-Fi, then why do I need 5G? That's
No,
my
that
question. Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think 4G is a transition into 5G because many customers have adopted 4G to some extent, and as they are moving more and more towards scaling what they are trying to do, right? I think that is where 5G comes in. There are more devices that are being created even on the public network for 5G. There's a lot of transition to 5G environments that you're actually moving into. But actually, when you start looking into mobility in the warehouse, because as you're transitioning into, the warehouses are pretty huge, and hundreds of thousands of square feet in space right now. Therefore, the mobility becomes a challenge as you're traversing through the warehouse. There is another challenge that they do face in terms of the reliability of the network. 5G networks do provide significant amount of reliability and security because all of us use our devices on 5G. Now you're bringing it into private 5G environments, so you're actually getting that capability. The other aspect is capacity. Being able to do these kind of various devices and bringing in the capacity to provide hundreds, if not thousands of sensors and devices that you want to bring in with all these different use cases actually drives you towards more the 5G environments.
Good. Thank you very much for that insight. Um, I have got a couple of questions coming from the audience. Um, Everyone is saying that look, the connectivity is just not limited to let's say a warehouse guy. It is production, it is warehouse, it is maybe other things, right? It's computer vision, right? It can be deployed everywhere, right? So what we are seeing is that this particular solution is impacting multiple functions. Now, whenever you do the transition to a newer things, you go to your bosses and you say, hey, why I want to put 5G. The question is, what's the ROI? What's the justification? And this question is to, I would like to hear thoughts from Dalia as well as yourself on how companies are basically making the business case when it is kind of cutting across multiple functions.
Yeah, I can go first. I think that's a really good point because, to be honest, when we speak to enterprises, including warehouses, that's always a challenge. To be honest, is still making that business case, and I think it always helps to have an anchor application as a starting point, and that it differs depending on the customer, but there needs to be a something that is going to change the way that the business operates and meets those challenges and improves efficiencies, etc. And they can range. Like we've seen examples where I talked about just communications is the core objective. So there's some companies where they've been migrating away from traditional push to talk systems, and that was the trigger to move to a private 4G or private 5G based one. But in other cases, it's no, we need to put in that computer vision system to be able to monitor health and safety and meet our health and safety kind of policy, or it might be using computer vision to monitor the output for checking for defects and the quality during the packaging process or whatever it might be. So that I think it's that anchor application that's really effective. And we work a lot with the connectivity players, so companies like Verizon. And sometimes the challenge is that if you come to the customer with just the connectivity without that application, it's very difficult to make that business case because it becomes sort of almost theoretical about how you could use the technology. So, I mean, not to kind of I guess like suck up to you guys, but I think that's what's really effective about this partnership is bringing bringing different parts of that full solution to the warehouse businesses so that they can make that business case more effectively.
Yeah, and
Mrinalini, your
I'd
thought.
like to add one more to this, as Amit, you talked about. One is that if you look at the statistics, right, the labor force takes about 50% of their time walking the floor. Imagine that, right? If you can reduce that and move it into value-added activities by using push to talk for communication and other technologies like computer vision that you can bring in there. The other aspect of it is the labor force right now is this is a huge, baby boomers who are retiring, and skilled labor is actually reducing significantly in the next 5 years. So that's going to have a bigger impact. So now if you're bringing in AR, VR for training and some of the other things that you're actually changing the problems that you did not have today, you're going to have it in the next 5 years, right? So how do you actually bridge that gap? Third is, I would say, doubling the production. If you look at manufacturing, they are constantly looking at, how many minutes does it take to roll out a car from a factory, for example. Imagine how inventory from the warehouse has to arrive in the factory line to make that happen. Significantly, they are trying to double the production. So when you look at ROI, it's just not about how many devices are connected and how you are doing, how many use cases you're adding on top of it, but more calculating at I've reduced the labor walking on the floor. I brought in automation, but it has helped me really double the production because I introduced these three technologies over there. And that is where 5G comes in. 5G is the way you can actually bring in the variety and the volume and the variability in these applications that you can actually bring into this. So I think having the Industry 4.0 expertise from Bosch and the connectivity expertise from Verizon can combine itself to provide the kind of solutions that is required in this space.
Thanks, Mrinalini. I mean, that was a very passionate answer. Let me say that. Now that you talked about right business outcomes, and both Dali and yourself touched about it, it's just not about connectivity, it's about business outcomes, right? And if you're making a business case or ROI case, you have to talk about the outcomes, right? So Chandan, Bosch, so SDS is into the business of kind of leveraging these technologies and implementing it for your customers, right? So how do you go about it?
I think I very briefly touched on it in the last answer. It's critical for you to first, and I think Rudy also spoke about this. It's critical for you to define the true north. That's a very important activity that happens in this entire transformation programs. And once you have identified that you want to break the entire transformation programs into smaller legs, this journey has to be broken into smaller legs. It helps you course correct. It helps you better manage and monitor your transformation and achieve maximum success, a maximum impact out of that. We work with our customers at each of these aspects. The second more critical or equally critical aspect is around the new age and emerging technologies. How do we leverage? We have heard about Gen AI. We have heard about AI, and how some of these AI/ML technologies can help you transform your warehousing operations. I believe it's very critical. Organizations that have achieved, say, as little as 20 minutes, 15 minutes delivery timelines did not do that by increasing their inventory by 300 times of what they were holding earlier. They did it by leveraging the power of data. So it's very critical to look at all these transformation exercises from a lens of, that data centric lens of, how do you want to leverage data? How do you want to bring in that increased level of warehouse and data transparency in your warehouse? And all those things being enabled essentially by different devices talking to you over a high speed, low latency network or a 5G network.
Mhm. Yeah, good. Thank you very much. I mean, so I've got a couple of questions, and I think we are reaching top of the hour. But Rudy, you have practically implemented some of these technologies, right? Um, so what are the use cases that has been implemented in Bosch warehouses, and what are the benefits you are getting?
I think at the end of the day, it's all about efficiency and focus on cost, right? As a corporation, and I would divide solutions into two different categories just briefly. I know we're running short on time. The first one is material movement, which is we all mentioned autonomous mobile robots, really big potential there. See a very fast evolution of technology still, solutions maturing. And then the other topic is automating not the movement, but the actual processes that need to happen with your goods. Talking about camera-based receiving processes. That is the second half of that picture that now is also evolving, also with the help of AI, to really, and I mentioned it earlier, minimize the human element, maximize automation, maximize smart solutions that are at the end of the day more efficient.
Rudy, thank you very much. I think we're just like 2 minutes, but I'm seeing like I have got 8 questions in front of me. Okay. I just want 20 seconds take on you. This is just, this is a technology, which means basically there's a huge amount of change management, right? How do uh, organizations go for that? How do they do the change management? Any of you can take it, but just 20 seconds, okay? Mrinali,
Um,
Dalia, yeah,
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 one thing is,
okay,
I
go on.
think bringing the different stakeholders together and bringing the IT OT teams together, and also looking at the various different tools that are available that can be leveraged. I think it's very critical to bring in the experts of Industry 4.0 as well as operations and the connectivity experts together to have that conversation is the first step, I would say.
Just one quick
Thank you.
addition to this. I
Yes.
think it's important for when it comes to change management. There's just one rule to it: communication, communication, and communication. So you have to make sure that there is adequate communication that goes out, and when you're doing that, also explain the why part of this change, because otherwise it becomes a compliance exercise for your employees. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for a wonderful session, Anjay. And audience, thank you for being a wonderful audience. I saw people really answering on the polls, and I'm seeing questions, and I hope I have answered many of those questions. What we'll do, I mean, I see the 3-4 hours left right now. But what we'll do is towards the end of the session, we are anyway going to send you a webinar link, the recording version, and we're also going to reach out to you on a personal basis and kind of understand your priorities and see how how we can help you. Thank you very much for participation today. We from Bosch, Verizon, and STL partners are delighted that you joined us. Okay, and yes, please take a moment to complete the feedback survey that will appear on your screen now before you close the session. So you can also do it later from your email, but better do it now, and you'll otherwise you'll forget. You also have got the contact details of Chandan and Matthias in case you have any questions, or you want to have a discussion. Please feel free to reach out to them, and we would be happy to take it forward. Thank you once again, panelists from California, from London, from South Carolina, from Detroit. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Bye
Very
from
much.
Thank you, everyone.
yes. Thank you.